A major shakeup at the MTR Corporation following the Hong Kong Station construction scandal. Trump administration reimposes sanctions against Iran.
Hello, good evening. A shake-up at the MTR Corporation management following serious deviations in construction works at Hong Kong Station. Government officials today revealed the firm submitted work plans that showed 2,000 fewer couplers than what it previously reported. Those couplers support a new platform slab at the station that's being expanded. The MTR Corporation suspended trading in its shares from 1 p.m. ahead of making this announcement. Besides Projects Director Phil Ko Wong, who tendered his resignation, CEO Lincoln Leung will also be leaving. He will retire early.
The fact that these events had happened during my time as CEO, I am accountable and ultimately responsible for these events.
He'll stay on as CEO until a replacement is found through a global search. The MTR Corporation also have to find a new chairman.
I actually tender my resignation to the government. As a matter of fact, twice. The government would like me to stay to make sure, as I mentioned early on, the search of the new CEO and deal with the matters, which are ongoing.
This follows the Hong Kong Station scandal, reports of shoddy works there as part of the Sha Tin to Central Link project first serviced in May. The government then announced the setting up of a commission of inquiry into the diaphragm wall and platform slab construction works at the Hong Kong Station extension. In mid-June, the MTRC submitted a report to the authorities detailing those designs and works. A month later, it handed in further information as required.
The Buildings Department as well as the Highways Department studied these plans. There were serious deviations, and the couplers used, their number is about 2,000 short compared to the number mentioned in the report. The project management team of the Sha Tin Central Link should be fully responsible.
What about the government? Is it responsible?
In terms of government supervision and monitoring, the mechanism has been effective.
I am astonished. The MTR had repeatedly disclosed information which misled the general public seriously.
At a time when MTR projects rocked public confidence, sources revealed September 23rd as the opening date for the West Kowloon Terminal. That's where high-speed trains connecting Hong Kong to the mainland will run.
A think tank said today the government's proposal for an artificial island between Lantau Island and Hong Kong Island is too conservative. The Our Hong Kong Foundation is suggesting doubling the size of that plan to accommodate over 1 million people. Pinky Wong tells us more.
Local think tank Our Hong Kong Foundation is led by the SAR's first chief executive, Tong Chi-hua. He says boosting land supply in Hong Kong requires looking beyond Victoria Harbour. The group thinks a government plan to develop the East Lantau metropolis is not enough. The project involves reclaiming around 1,000 hectares of land from the sea between Lantau Island and Hong Kong Island. Instead, the think tank says there's a need to double that to 2,200 hectares, connecting 3 islands, Kau Yi Chau, Hei Ling Chau, and Peng Chau together. Roads and railways will be connecting the artificial island with Tuen Mun, Mei Fu, and West Hong Kong Island. 3 highways to Kennedy Town, Lantau Island, and Yuen Long will also be built. In the think tank's proposal, 30% of the land will be dedicated to residential buildings to house 1.1 million people. Among them, 70% of the flats will be public sector housing. The research team insists it's the most effective for the city.
This is a recommendation. We're a think tank. We are just presenting what, after very heavy, intensive research, what we believe Hong Kong needs to do.
So how much will it cost? According to the foundation's estimates, it will be $1,300 per square foot, similar to buying back agricultural land in the new territories right now. This member of the Citizens Task Force on Land Resources said such information is unrealistic. What they're proposing is building a city in the middle of the sea, and their estimated cost is only about land reclamation. Omitting the cost for infrastructure will mislead the public. The think tank's proposal has also caused environmental concern, particularly on the habitat of the Chinese white dolphins. Even though they propose to keep a buffer distance from ecologically sensitive areas, green groups doubt the effectiveness of the proposed buffer zone. Pinky Wong, TVB News.
The death toll from Sunday night's earthquake that struck the Indonesian resort island of Lombok is now officially at 108. But officials expect the figure to rise. As Jeff Tang reports, rescuers are in a race against time to find survivors, while thousands of people are left homeless.
Rescuers hugged each other in joy this morning in the ruins of a town in West Nusa Tenggara province. That's after a 23-year-old woman was pulled out of the rubble alive following a grueling 4-hour operation. She had been trapped in a convenience store that was flattened by Sunday's magnitude 6.9 earthquake. Search and rescue officers previously thought that nobody could have survived in the collapsed structure until they heard a voice coming out of the debris. It only provided a brief moment of solace as authorities warned the death toll will rise further. Over in North Lombok, where the quake hit hardest, around 100 people were praying inside this large mosque when the tremor hit. A survivor said he remained inside the mosque after the first shock, but made his escape as the tremors grew stronger. Disaster officials could not confirm how many people they believe are still trapped beneath the collapsed building. This as rescuers continue to make their way through the mosque's mangled remains with heavy-duty cutting equipment. Meanwhile, authorities are still struggling to reach all of the affected areas, hampered by collapsed structures, heavily damaged roads and a lack of heavy equipment. Aid organizations that were already on Lombok after the island was hit by a 6.4 quake on July 29th said they were stepping up their humanitarian efforts. That quake killed 20 people. It was said to be the foreshock of Sunday's more powerful earthquake. The latest tremor struck the northern part of Lombok at a shallow depth, damaging thousands of buildings and displacing some 20,000 people. It was felt as far away as Bali, which is some 150 kilometers away. Jeff Tang, TVB News.
The United States has reimposed stiff economic sanctions on Iran, despite statements of dismay from its European allies. Iran accused Washington of reneging on the 2015 nuclear deal reached under the Obama administration. Alan Puknia reports.
U.S. President Donald Trump has consistently criticized the accord, saying it leaves the Iranian government flush with cash to fuel conflict in the Middle East. The first set of sanctions target financial transactions that involve U.S. dollars, Iran's automotive sector, and the purchase of commercial planes and metal, including gold. A second batch of sanctions to be reimposed in November will target Iran's oil sector and central bank. Iranian President Hassan Rouhani said Iran can still rely on China and Russia to keep its oil and banking sectors afloat. Iran's foreign minister said the sanctions will endanger ordinary Iranians, something the Trump administration insists is not the target. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu praised the sanctions, saying they symbolize the determination to block Iran's regional aggression, as well as its continuous plans to arm itself with nuclear weapons. But the European Union expressed dismay, saying Iran has been living up to the terms of the nuclear deal. A European Commission spokeswoman said a law has been triggered to shield EU companies doing business with Iran.
The blocking statute will allow EU operators to recover damages arising from US extraterritorial sanctions from the persons causing them, and nullifies the effect in the EU of any foreign court rulings based on them. It also forbids EU persons from complying with those sanctions.
And while the Trump administration said Iran's leadership is on very shaky ground, it insists the latest economic pressure is not an attempt at regime change. Alan Puknia, TVB News.
A political spat between Canada and Saudi Arabia has led to the ambassador of each country being recalled. The problem started after Canada raised concerns over the arrest of women's activists in the kingdom. Peter Coveas tells us more.
Speaking in Vancouver, Canada's Foreign Minister Chrystia Freeland defended her country's stance.
Our government has consistently supported women's rights internationally, and we have consistently spoken out for women's rights, including in Saudi Arabia. This is something that Canada believes in. It is something we will continue to do in Canada and around the world.
Analysts believe Saudi Arabia's decision was hasty.
I think the decision to expel the ambassador and declare him a persona non grata was made impulsively. And if anything, it attests to the pressure that the Saudi political system is confronting these days in the midst of transition.
That transition under new Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman has been conflicting. Women have been given the right to drive, yet those who campaigned for women's rights have been arrested. Trade between the two countries amounts to $4 billion annually, but it could become zero. Saudi Arabia has frozen trade with Canada. That could jeopardize a $13 billion military contract. The Saudi state airline says it will suspend all flights to Toronto starting next Monday. The oil-rich kingdom is also planning to pull thousands of Saudi students out of Canadian schools to take classes in other countries. Peter Coveas, TVB News.
At the trial of Donald Trump's former campaign chairman, Paul Manafort, a longtime business associate testified to how he helped Manafort file false tax returns and hide foreign bank accounts. Manafort is accused of tax evasion and bank fraud. Witnesses have described Rick Gates as Manafort's right-hand man. Gates has already pleaded guilty to tax fraud. On the fifth day of the Manafort trial, Gates admitted to helping Manafort doctor financial statements, hide foreign income, and cheat on his taxes. He also said he was aware Manafort was acting as an unregistered foreign agent lobbying for Ukraine.
This is a pivotal part of the government's case where they have a co-conspirator who's coming in and telling the jurors how he committed these crimes alongside Manafort, and in his own words telling how in many cases this criminal conduct didn't benefit him, it actually benefited his longtime boss, Paul Manafort.
And still ahead tonight. Police smash a fake banknote syndicate. Many greyhounds left behind in Macau said to be in a disastrous condition. And a major traffic accident in Italy leaves 2 dead and some 70 injured.
Back to TVB News. Fake money may be circulating in the community. Police came to that conclusion after they raided a workshop that produced counterfeit banknotes. These are some of the more than 1,200 fake notes seized from a flat in To Kwa Wan. They were printed as $500 and $1,000 notes with a combined face value of more than $1.4 million. While they may look real, police say they lack the genuine note's security features. Police said the money could have been used at convenience stores or given to cabbies during night rides. Officers arrested 3 men, an American and 2 Pakistanis, in connection with the case.
Those who wish to subscribe to the first tranche of the Hong Kong Mortgage Corporation annuity plan have just 1 day left before the deadline. Under the plan, Hong Kong permanent residents aged 65 or above can invest a lump sum to secure fixed monthly payments for life. Public response to the scheme so far is said to be within expectations.
The younger O's seems to be more interested in this product, as reflected in the subscription results. The 10 billion subscription amount or ceiling is actually not our sales target. It's more important to look at the results by way of judging the public reaction, whether the first sale of the LAS has indeed aroused interest of the public.
The Independent Review Committee on Hong Kong's franchised bus service questioned Kowloon Motor Bus's management practices during a hearing today. KMB Chairman Norman Leung said he had suggested raising drivers' salaries way before the Tai Po bus accident took place in February. Kena Chu reports.
The hearing held at the central government offices was attended by KMB representatives including Chairman Norman Leung, Deputy Chairman John Chan, as well as Managing Director Roger Lee. Quoting documents submitted by KMB, Senior Counsel Peter Duncan questioned whether KMB had only improved its drivers' pay due to the Tai Po bus accident in February. Leung denied this. He noted his suggestion to raise drivers' monthly base salary from $12,000 to $15,400 by including the safe driving and good service bonuses came right after the Sham Shui Po bus accident last September. He added that his suggestion was originally set to come into effect in March after it was passed by KMB's board of directors in December. However, the Tai Po bus accident in February made it seem as if what Duncan raised was the case. Duncan then inquired if drivers with safe driving records wouldn't be given the bonuses. Leung said he believes in the professionalism of drivers who would not act irresponsibly due to the lack of a bonus. Leung said he believes in the professionalism of drivers who would not act irresponsibly due to the lack of a bonus. Duncan also questioned why KMB had fired their Safety and Service Quality Department head in 2014. Operations Director Lan Kin Wong said that person had issues communicating with drivers and was unfamiliar with buses. The department, now the Training and Quality Assurance Department, has been led by 2 deputy operations directors since 2015. Kena Chu, TVB News.
Over 500 greyhounds left behind after Macau's dog racing tracks closed are said to be in a disastrous condition. Required odd dogs to be desexed before being adopted. So far, 12 of them have undergone the procedures. Yet volunteers are saying a change in diet and poor living conditions have resulted in many of them getting sick. Overseas again, at least 2 people were killed and up to 70 injured last night in a major traffic accident in northern Italy. That's after a tanker truck carrying liquefied petroleum gas ploughed into the back of a stopped lorry on an elevated motorway near Bologna Airport. The collision resulted in an explosion that sent black smoke and a ball of fire into the sky. A short while later, after police cleared the highway of most other cars, a second enormous explosion ripped across all 8 lanes of the highway. Extreme heat from that blast caused a section of the roadway to collapse into a car dealership below, where dozens of vehicles also caught fire and exploded. The blast was said to have shattered windows in nearby buildings and caused widespread panic because no one knew what it was. And in a separate incident, 12 migrant laborers died in the southern Italian province of Foggia when the van they were traveling in smashed into a lorry. That's the news.